Welcome back to the MOOC course on Digital Humanities Theory and Practice. In the first lecture, I talked of the marvels of digital humanities in general, where we discussed the application of digital humanities in our everyday life. The second lecture, entitled Digital Humanities Redefining English Studies in the AI Age, is a continuum of the discussion on the marvel of digital humanities with a special reference to English studies. Today, we are not just studying literature. Rather, we are rethinking what literature actually is. Traditionally, literature meant printed books, carefully read and interpreted over time. But now, literature lives on screens, across social media, in interactive formats, and even inside AI systems. So you need to ponder on some points. What was the last thing that you read? Was it a novel, or a tweet, or a caption? This shifts tells us that something important about reading, which in itself has changed. Digital humanities is a field that studies this transformation. It brings together literature, technology, and the data. And importantly, AI is not replacing literature. AI is a tool helping us analyze, visualize, and even create it in new ways. Let us now look at how this session is structured. Think of this as a roadmap, rather a list only. With the help of first three lectures, we are establishing the foundations, that is, understanding what digital humanities is and why it matters. This is the second lecture. So, this lecture starts with the pedagogy, where we rethink how literature is taught in digital environment. Then comes infrastructure, which includes the tools and platforms that makes this transformation possible. We then explore research, where literature meets data analysis and computational methods. Then we can think of manipulation, that refers to how we transform and analyze texts using digital tools. And finally, we look at case studies where theory becomes practice. As you listen, reflect on which of these areas feels most new or challenging to you. And I will request you to keep doing this with every lesson. Okay, what is it that interests you, and what is it that you're not, you can think about that. This course emerges from an important institutional initiative at AMU. It reflects a growing recognition that literature must evolve alongside technological change. Traditionally, literary studies focused on theory, interpretation, criticism, and close reading. And especially in the third world, I am in India, so I know about India. In academics, students and teachers, everybody focuses on close reading. Close reading of a short story, of a poem, of a novel, or a book on theory. Close reading is very popular. People have passions about close reading. People do not like distant reading. But today, the students must also engage with digital tools, platforms, and creative practices. This means moving from being passive readers to active creators and analysts. And this is what digital humanities does, that a reader becomes an active creator and analyst. It is there also in close reading. If you think of reader response, for example, or new criticism, formalism, it's there. But in digital humanities, you can think of electronic literature, for example. There, readers become creators and analysts. I will talk about this in the couple of lessons which are yet to come. Let me ask you, do you think literature students should learn technical tools? This is also very important. To my mind, I think yes. What is the purpose of reading literature? Becoming a teacher or a professor or something more than that? There are students who are interested in technical tools also. I know a couple of my research scholars and students who are good at technical tools. So literature students should learn technical tools because these tools can expand how they analyze, interpret, and present texts. For example, digital tools like text analysis software, data visualization, and online archives allow students to study patterns in language, themes, and historical contexts more efficiently. This can deepen their understanding of literature and open up new research methods such as digital humanities. In addition, learning technical skills prepares literature students for a wide range of careers. Many jobs today, such as publishing, marketing, editing, content creation, require familiarity with digital platforms, digital handling, or basic coding. Having these skills makes graduate more versatile and competitive in the job market. Traditional skills, however, technical tools should support, not replace technical literary skills like close reading, critical thinking, and interpretation. Literature is fundamentally about human experience, creativity, and meaning. So the focus should remain on those core aspects. Overall, combining literary knowledge with technical skills gives students the best of both worlds. So, strong analytical thinking and practical modern abilities. So, this is in this slide, I was talking of the scope for literature students. That technology is also important, especially in the 21st century, with the emergence of AI and digital humanities and everything like that. So, it's there. I will talk more about this in my next lectures. One of the biggest challenges we face today is the shift in reading habits. Now, look at this. This is very interesting. Earlier, students engaged in deep, sustained reading of texts. Now, reading often happens in short, fragmented bursts, tweets, posts, and captions. Just think of your students, of the youngsters. What is their reading pattern? Fragmented bursts, short, tweets, posts, captions. This does not mean reading is declining. No. It means it is changing. And we have to accept it. We can't take back our students in the 18th, 19th, 20th century. Time has changed. It's better to accept that. So the reading habit has changed. However, this creates a pedagogical challenge. How do we maintain depth and rigor in such an environment? Let us try something. Imagine analyzing a tweet as if it were a poem. So what literary devices can you identify? Tone, irony, metaphor? So this exercise shows that literature itself exists, but now in new forms. So digital humanities rests on two key pillars. The first is pedagogical content generation. That is how we create and deliver learning materials. This includes ebooks, multimedia lectures, and interactive content. And the second pillar is data manipulation. Here, literature becomes data that can be digitized, preserved, and analyzed. Tools like OCR convert physical text into digital form, while AI helps uncover patterns. So think of it this way. One pillar creates knowledge, the other analyzes it. The concept of literature has expanded dramatically in the digital age. Today, platforms like Twitter and WhatsApp host forms of micro-literature. These texts are brief, immediate, and highly interactive. Digital art and music further expand literature into multimedia experiences. Ebooks publishing allows anyone to become an author, removing the traditional barriers. So, for example, you can think of literature on Twitter and WhatsApp, examining literature produced on social platforms are as legitimate objects of academic study, or digital art or music integrating diverse non-print media content onto the English curriculum to broaden the scope. Or you can also imagine ebooks publishing, utilizing digital first publishing platforms to empower direct students-led content creation. Perhaps most interesting is user participation. Readers can now influence narratives, and this you will understand in my other lessons. So you need to think on all these concepts, and to my mind they are all correct in this 21st century. So let us now understand the infrastructure behind digital learning. So first is dissipation. How content is distributed across platforms via Amazon Kindle Store, National Digital Library of India, and Internet Archive. Then comes access. How students retrieve this content by utilizing, for example, Google Classroom. Next is consumption. How literature is experienced through devices such as Audible, personal computing devices, tablets, and interactive projectors. And finally, reproduction, where students create new knowledge from what they learn. For example, inputs, turning consumption into new outputs. So this is not a linear process, but a cycle. You need to think it. Research in digital humanities relies heavily on technology. You can think of artificial intelligence, utilizing literary bots and advanced AI algorithms to analyze and explore automated storytelling and narrative structure, which allows us to analyze large bodies of text quickly and efficiently. Optical character recognition, that is known as OCR technology, which digitize physical manuscript for global online access and helps digitize manuscripts, preserving them for future generation. You can also think of digital repositories such as ShodhGanga, InflibNet, Spotify for textual data, music archives, and diverse visual art digital museums provide access to vast collection of research and cultural materials. You can also think of advanced mapping tools using 3D mapping and CT scanning to precisely reconstruct literary environments and historical artifacts in virtual space, even allow us to reconstruct historical environments. So this is the potential of digital humanities. How can we ignore this? How can we confine to the pages in a book? So yes, technology can absolutely introduce bias into research, often in subtle but significant ways. So there are biases also. There is, the first one is data bias. Data bias. If the data used by a tool like AI model or statistical software is incomplete or unrepresentative, the results will reflect those gaps. So that is called data bias. Then algorithmic bias. Algorithms are designed by humans, and their assumptions, choices, training processes can introduce bias. You can think of tool design and defaults. Software often has built-in settings, thresholds, or methods that influence outcomes. So researchers may accept defaults without questioning them. So critical thinking should be there to understand the biases. Measurement bias is the fourth one. Technology used to collect data, sensors, surveys, apps, may systematically mismeasure certain groups or variables. And you can also think of access and digital divide. Who has access to technology can reshape the research participation and outcomes. The sixth one is automation bias. Researchers may overtrust technological outputs. This is something that is going on. I see my students doing this. So researchers may overtrust technological outputs, assuming they are objective or neutral. So accepting AI-generated results without critical evaluation. So this is automation bias, and this is what is happening nowadays. whatever, I mean, we go to ChatGPT and we type it there, and whatever comes, we just use it in our everyday life without seeing that it is biased. So, technology is not inherently neutral. Technology is not inherently neutral. It reflects the data, design, and decisions behind it. So, we can think of computational tools such as advanced software for interrogating data, enabling distant reading, and synthesizing texts and visual art to explore literary corpuses are transforming how we analyze literature. So we can think of Vern tools, for example, which helps us visualize patterns in text data. Or you can think of AI tools like DAL-E that converts textual descriptions into images, creating new interpretive possibilities. And you can think of distant reading, which allows us to analyze thousands of texts at once, identifying large-scale trends. This approach is highly interdisciplinary, combining literature with data research, data science. So we need to ask ourselves, what kind of insights do you think this approach can reveal? Here are the kinds of insights this approach can reveal. So large-scale patterns across many texts. So you can think of trends in themes. So how ideas like love, war, or identity evolve over centuries. Changes in language use, style, or vocabulary over time. Recurring narrative structures or genre across different authors and periods. And you can also think of hidden connections and relationships. So links between authors, influences, or literary movements, similarities between texts that are not obvious through traditional reading, networks of characters, ideas, and references within and across works. You can also think of quantitative insights into literature, and that is very important because generally people talk of qualitative aspect in literature, and people hardly think of frequency of words, phrases, motifs, sentiment, or emotional tone across the corpus, stylistic fingerprints that can help identify authorship or genre. So there is a new forms of interpretation through AI. So tools like image generating AI can visualize literary themes or scenes, offering creative interpretations. Combining texts and visual outputs can deepen understanding of or suggest new meanings. Last of all, you can think of interdisciplinary perspective. Blending literature with data science allows researchers to ask new questions. It enables both macro-level analysis, big trends, and micro-level insights, that is, specific passages. Overall, this approach reveals insights that are too large, complex, or subtle to notice through traditional reading alone, opening up entirely new ways of understanding literature. Narratives are not only temporal, they are spatial, time and space. So narratives are not only temporal, related to time, they are spatial also, related to space. So digital mapping allows us to visualize stories as networks of places and movements. For example, mapping a novel like Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf reveals how characters move through London. This adds a new layer of interpretation. So, how might mapping change our understanding of a story you know very well? So, there is new dimension if you think on in terms of a spatial humanities. You might try to answer by saying that mapping a story, whether literally, that means geographic maps, or conceptually, that is plot maps and character relationships or timelines, can significantly deepen understanding in several ways. So you can think of visualizing a structure. So creating a map of events or locations helps you to see the structure of a story. You can better track it. Where key event happen, how settings influence the plot, the sequence and pacing of events. And so you can reveal connections. So mapping characters or themes that uncover relationships that are not obvious when just reading. Hidden patterns between characters, repeated themes or symbols, cause and effect links across a story. A timeline map can make a complex or non-linear narratives easier to follow. For example, flashback and parallel plots can become clearer. You can identify gaps or overlaps in the events. If a story is tied to real places or historical events, or mapping can provide cultural or historical insights, and it can show how geography shapes characters' choice. So there is a possibility of encouraging new interpretations. This is the crux of the matter. So seeing a story in a new format often leads to fresh insights. You might notice patterns or themes you missed before, and it happens. So perspective change over a period of time. So it can challenge your original interpretation. In short, mapping turns a story from something you read into something you can analyze visually, often revealing deeper meaning and connections. So digital humanities presents both challenges and opportunities. It is still an emerging field with much potential yet to be realized. However, it requires significant resources, technology, training, funding. So it blurs traditional roles as students become researchers and creators. So departments are evolving into interdisciplinary hubs. So we need to understand that does this transformation strengthen or weaken literary studies? Like earlier, we started with the canon, British literature in English. Then we added American literature, then Anglo-Indian literature, then Commonwealth literature, then theory, then African literature, Caribbean literature, Australian literature. post-colonial literature, world literature, and translations of local languages, translated texts. So does this transformation strengthen or weaken literary studies? I think it strengthens, because we are accessing a range of literature, not only the canons. So to answer this, you might think of a strong answer would typically say that such transformations can both strengthen and challenge literary studies. So new approaches like digital humanities, interdisciplinary methods, cultural studies, environmental humanities, medical humanities, blue humanities, they are all expand what counts as literature, bring in new voices, and make the field more relevant to contemporary issues. They can introduce innovative tools and fresh perspective. While some argue that these shifts may dilute the close reading and reduce focus on canonical texts, or fragment the discipline into too many subfields without a clear core. Most balanced arguments conclude that the transformation ultimately strengthens literary studies by making it more inclusive and adaptable, as long as core analytical skills and critical rigor are preserved. So we need to understand this. So as we conclude, let us think about the future. Digital transformation is not optional, it is inevitable. The scholars of the future must be adaptable, combining literary insight with technical skills. You are not just readers. Actually, you are creators, analysts, and innovators. So you can ponder on a point that what skills do you think will define the next generation of literature students? So thank you very much for your listening to me. I hope you liked this talk, but I have included so many new dimensions related to literature studies. So thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.